Hi guys, welcome to another Cambush tutorial. Today we're going to be discussing Cambush 3.0 and some of the new features in this version.
The first thing you'll notice is that we're using a looping video of an intruder invading our pool. We will use this video to illustrate how the motion detection settings can change.
Right. So before we get to that, I'd like to talk about the buttons that you see here on the screen. In the bottom left, there's the camera switcher, which switches between the front-facing and the rear-facing cameras. It's pretty self-explanatory.
In the center, there's the arm switch, and this is basically the button that you toggle to start cambushing, which means that you will not be recording videos before it's toggled on, but once it's toggled on, when it detects motion, it will start recording videos.
Right. So the next thing is the settings panel, which you can bring up by tapping on the right side there.
Before that, we should mention, you'd probably notice the red frame that keeps popping up on the screen. That's an indicator that shows when motion is detected above a certain amount. So when that red frame comes on, that's when video would be recorded if it was armed. Okay,
so let's get into the settings here. The first thing to note is that those first two settings there, the quality and frame rate, are independent for the back and the front-facing camera. And that means that the back and front-facing camera have different capabilities on every single different device. So on this particular device, which is this iPhone 6s, we can go all the way up to 1080p and all the way down to 480p. And our frame rate can go up to 120 frames per second.
One thing to note is that at lower quality and frame rate settings, your phone will actually use less power and conserve battery. So if you're leaving your phone uncharged out in the open, it might be a good idea to use a lower setting.
Right. So the next settings are the sensitivity and the speed settings. So the sensitivity adjusts the amount of motion that it takes to trigger a recording. A high sensitivity will trigger a recording with just a little bit of motion on the screen, such as a mouse or an object that's far away.
And the speed setting changes how far back the algorithm compares the current frame. This means if you're recording outside and the scene has a lot of ambient motion, you may want to increase the speed in order to kind of filter out that motion.
Yeah, and when in doubt, just always set it back to medium and medium for both these settings. It's usually the best setting for most scenarios.
At the end of the tutorial, we'll come back and show how these settings actually affect the looping monkey video.
Yeah. So the idle record setting, this is something that tells Cambush how long to continue recording after a motion event is triggered. If you have this set to 5 seconds, like we do here, Cambush will record for 5 seconds after it sees something stop moving. And if nothing happens during that time, it will stop recording and save the video.
Okay. The countdown is basically the amount of time Cambush gives you before it starts recording when it detects motion. So if you need a lot of time to set up the phone somewhere, you can set it to 10 seconds and then walk away.
So just note that right now it's set to 3 seconds, and later on in this tutorial, you'll see where that comes in. Okay, the next setting is the power save option, and this lets you arm Cambush with a black screen. It saves power and processing. If you want to use a frame rate above 60 frames per second, you will also need to enable this since most processors can't handle it.
The timestamp setting will add the date and time to your saved video, which is a heavily requested feature from Cambush 2.0.
The Visualized Motion feature here lets you see exactly what the motion detection algorithm is seeing. It highlights everything that is moving in the screen to help you when calibrating your settings. I'm going to turn it on right here so that you can kind of start to see what it looks like.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. The alarm, the doorbell, and the Rickroll settings are all just audio triggers. If you want to play Rick Astley's famous song, then just turn that on. If you want a doorbell chime to ring, enable that. And the alarm is like a car alarm.
So when Cambush is armed and motion's detected, it'll start playing any or all of these.
Yeah.
I don't know why you'd use all. But...
And it can get very annoying.
Yes.
The light setting, this just turns on your device's torch. It's pretty self-explanatory. It only works on the back-facing camera, or the rear-facing camera, the one with the light. We've included the autofocus feature here. Usually, for the most part, you're going to want to leave that turned on. It's on by default. It's really only when you start running into issues with the autofocus triggering recordings that you want to turn that off. For most people, it's going to be totally fine. A new really cool feature that we just added is the Dropbox Sync. And so this now enables you to log into your Dropbox account and sync up videos as they are recorded.
Okay, so now we should go over an example of how to fine-tune the speed and sensitivity. So as you can see, we set Visualized Motion, and here you can see what that looks like. Basically, you can see where the motion begins, and with the red frame around the video, you can see when recording would have started. So right now we're on medium sensitivity and medium speed. Let's change the speed down to slow. And so what you'll see is a little bit more noise in the image. And what that means is that it's a little less, the filter's a little less forgiving, and it takes a little more time for motion to become visible. So usually this is bad if you're outdoors because you'll get noise from leaves or moving objects. And for example, if we set the sensitivity to high sensitivity, which means almost anything, any motion will trigger, you'll see that this video of the monkey is basically triggering almost all the time. There's a lot of false positives. So that means you would end up with a lot of video recordings with nothing in them except for maybe leaves moving that triggered it. So for this particular video, and in general, we recommend medium sensitivity and medium speed for the filter. And so now you'll see that the frame comes on when there's motion on the screen, and then things kind of die down, and there's no recording that's going to happen, and then again the monkey comes in and we'll get a recording. So let's do a demo toggle on.
Yeah, so once you've calibrated all your settings to your specifications, then you toggle the switch in the middle, and you'll see the countdown go off. And now Cambush is going to start recording whenever it sees something move.
Right.
And in this case, it sees the guy running around and jumping in the pool.
So we'd basically be able to leave this out, and in this case we get, because it's looping, we'd get a recording every time he comes through. If the idle time was small enough, we would only get one each. And then to stop cambushing or to disarm, you just hit the toggle again, and it tells you how many videos it recorded. In our case, it only recorded one because there wasn't enough time between motion detections to it just didn't stop recording video.
Right. And so once you have these videos saved, you'll want to go into your device's camera roll or your photo roll, and that's where you'll find an album called Cambush, and you'll see all your saved videos there. I think that's it for this tutorial. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, and if you feel inclined, we always appreciate a good review in the App Store. Thanks for using Cambush.